This story, it's kind of like a letter written from an older, wiser self to a younger one. It's a raw, emotional warning about the things we so easily take for granted. We're about to walk through a really powerful story of love, loss, and the incredible price of regret.
Mom, I am so sorry. These 4 words, they're really the heart of this entire story. We're starting with the apology because we need to understand the painful, winding road it took to finally be able to say them out loud. So to really get why this apology is so heavy, we've got to rewind. Go all the way back to the beginning, back to a young man who was just completely blind to the love that was right there in front of him, totally lost in that casual arrogance of being young.
Here's the thing you gotta understand about his youth. No matter what he did, and I mean no matter how badly he messed up, his mother was his #1 fan, always. She saw something in him that honestly, he couldn't see in himself at all.
Okay, so this one moment, it just says it all. Picture this. His mother is on the sidelines of his football game, and she's so proud, she's literally running up and down the field with the play, just screaming his name. And his reaction? It wasn't pride. It was pure teenage shame. He actually told his friends he didn't know her. A small moment maybe, but it revealed such a deep betrayal. And yeah, his life was just completely spiraling out of control. You know that old saying, "Show me your friends and I'll show you your future"? Well, his future looked pretty bleak. He was hanging out with the wrong crowd, he'd given up on his dreams, and he was caught in a dangerous cycle that almost killed him 3 different times.
And you know what? Through every single one of those awful nights, that light was on. That light in the window was like a symbol of her constant fear, but also her unending hope. She would not go to sleep until she heard him come home, until she knew that her son was, at the very least, still alive.
And his response to all that worry, to that love, "Man, just leave me alone. You bug me." That's what he'd say. She just wanted to talk for a second, to connect, and he'd slam the door in the face of the one person who never, ever gave up on him. Those words, they would come back to haunt him.
All right, so now the scene completely changes. We're jumping halfway across the world. He's in Japan on a wrestling tour, living what seems like a totally different life. But he's about to get the wake-up call of his life, right in the middle of the night.
You can almost feel the dread building, can't you? It starts with a simple knock. Then that vague, urgent command, "You need to call home." When he gets on the phone, the voice on the other end is cracking, struggling to even get the words out. He knows something is terribly, terribly wrong, but there's no way he could have prepared for what was coming next.
And there it was, the sentence that just shatters everything. So final, delivered over a crackling phone line thousands of miles away. The door he'd slammed shut on her was now locked forever.
So, what happens next is all about that crushing weight. The weight of an "I'm sorry" that comes way, way too late. His first reaction wasn't even a thought. It was just pure, raw grief. He didn't just sit there. He ran, fled his hotel room, and just ran into the empty, dark streets of Hiroshima, as if he could somehow outrun the truth. And right there, in the middle of a street, totally alone, under a foreign sky, it all hits him. The full weight of everything he'd done, everything he'd failed to do, it all came crashing down. And finally, the words he could never say to her face just came pouring out.
Mom, I am so sorry. The same words, but this time, this time, they're not just an apology. Shouted into the night, they were filled with this sudden, horrible understanding. It was a confession. It was a cry of regret for a whole lifetime of taking her completely for granted.
So he gets back home for the funeral, but the grief, it's all mixed up with this crippling fear. He can't even bring himself to go near the casket, to face the reality of it all. He just hangs back, stuck in this almost childish denial, just wishing, praying, that she would just open her eyes and everything would be okay. But when he finally got the courage to go up to her, something just shifted. It was like he was seeing her for the very first time, not through the filter of teenage embarrassment or his own selfishness. He was seeing her, and she was beautiful, peaceful. He was finally, truly seeing his mother. "Mom, you are my hero. Everything I am and everything I hope to be was because of you." The perfect words, the absolute truth of how he felt, a beautiful eulogy, said to her when she could no longer hear them. So, what do you do with that kind of soul-crushing pain? You have to let it change you, right? You have to let it teach you something. For him, this awful tragedy became the very foundation for a whole new way of looking at life,
A lesson paid for in the heaviest way you can imagine.
And that's when it hit him. He'd been running a race his whole life, but he was on the wrong track. He was chasing all the external stuff, the money, the fame, the status, thinking that was the finish line. He never stopped to look at what it was costing him, his marriage, his family, his friends, all for a prize that just left him alone.
And out of all that pain came this whole new philosophy on life. It was about shifting from chasing the future to actually living in the present. It was the deep, hard-earned understanding that real wealth isn't about what's in your bank account. It's about what's in your heart.
You know they say love is just a word until someone comes along and gives it meaning. For him, that person was always his mother. Her relentless belief in him, her constant worry, that light in the window. That was the definition of love, even when he refused to see it.
And that really brings us to the big question this whole story leaves us with. It's a painful lesson for sure, but an important one. So it's worth taking a second to ask yourself, who are the people that give your life meaning? And the really important part, do they know it?